Welcome to Spicy Channel News. Spirit gives us a different taste and different mood, and each spirit has a unique history. Today's top story will have a great impact on the history of the spirit industry. Suntory, a Japanese food and beverage giant, has bought Beam, a famous American bourbon brand, for $83.5 per share in cash, or a total of about $16 billion including debt. The price is at a 25% premium to Beam's closing price of $66.97 on January 10, 2014. Through this acquisition, the sales will be over $4.3 billion, and this new company will become the third largest player behind Diageo and Pernod Ricard in the world premium spirit market. Suntory was established in 1899 and has premium alcohol brands such as Yamazaki in whiskey and premium malts in beer. Due to the shrinking domestic market, Suntory is aggressively going global through takeovers like Fruco, New Zealand beverage company, and Orangine Schweppes, French non-alcohol beverage company. Beam has the world-leading premium spirits brand like Jim Beam Bourbon, Pinnacle Vodka, and Skinny Girl Cocktail. The sales volume in 2012 is $2.5 billion, 38 million cases in 9-liter equivalent. This acquisition procedure will be closed in spring 2014. Suntory's CEO, Mr. Sobtanaji, talks about his vision and strategy to SCN. Let's have a look at his interview.
その一つとして、この度、サントリーグループの強みであるウイスキー分野において、世界市場に打って出るということを目標に、ジムビーム社の買収を決定いたしました。ウイスキーは種類の中でも非常にブランド付加価値が高く、かつ国際的に需要も堅調であるという非常に魅力的なマーケットであります。また、ジムビーム社は世界最大のスピリッツ市場であります北米ですでに確固たる地位を築いており、同社を買収することによって当社のスピリッツ部門における世界シェアは世界第3位まで向上いたします。この買収は単なる事業拡大にとどまらず、世界市場でグローバル企業として戦っていくというグループの決意であり、また試金石であるというふうに考えております。この買収を通じまして、ジムビーム社の持つ国際的なブランド、そして当社の強みを生かしつつ、世界市場におけるリーディングカンパニーを目指してまいりたいと考えております。
To discuss more about the acquisition, we have two guests with us. Mr. Shiori, Vice President of Suntory, and Mr. Erickson, Vice President of Beam. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Spicy Channel News.
Thank you for having us.
So, Mr. Shiori, what is the advantage of this acquisition for Suntory?
Since 2000, Japan's aging and contracting population, long-term recession, and the change in consumer behavior have caused the shrinking demand in domestic market. And this trend will continue in the future. To overcome this, we bought Beam Inc. By acquiring Beam, we have expanded our product portfolio and created value for our consumers. Suntory mainly produces Scotch whiskey and Beam mainly produces bourbon. There is no cannibalization of products because of this product segment. Through this acquisition, we also acquire a wide distribution network that Beam has in the US, India, Brazil, and Russia. We intend to make good use of this network to promote not only Beam's products but also Suntory products like Yamazaki, which will now be under Beam Suntory. This way, we intend to capture value as we turn our potential consumers of Yamazaki into actual consumers of Yamazaki.
So, Mr. Erickson, what is the advantage of this acquisition for Beam?
Threefold advantage with this acquisition. Firstly, we have a very good relationship with Suntory. We have been promoting each other's products for a few years, creating a good cultural mix. Also, Beam's senior management will maintain their position in Beam Suntory, allowing the company to continue on its high growth curve. Secondly, Suntory's financial muscle will be available to the Beam's management to bolster expansion through further brand extensions in the form of premium priced products plus niche takeovers to augment the portfolio. And lastly, this acquisition will also serve the shareholders' interests very well.
What is the competitive advantage for Beam Suntory?
Beam Suntory is now the world's third largest producer of premium alcohols by volume. This acquisition gives it immediate enhanced access to the US, the world's largest spirits market. That will enable Beam Suntory to make large strides towards its goal of doubling the annual sales in the next 5 years. Also, with the highly profitable global bourbon brand, operating income ratio of Jim Beam has been around 25%, which is much higher than Suntory's operating income margin. This high profitability will directly impact our performance and lead to success as a global beverage company group. Lastly, we can also utilize a technique that Suntory has accumulated through producing premium single malt whiskey for many years. Sharing this technology will help us produce new products which will attract more customers.
What kind of value do you provide to customer for Beam Suntory?
I think the most significant advantage for customers is that Japanese premium whiskey became available in many more regions of the world through distribution networks of Jim Beam. A lot of people in the world know that the Japanese whiskey is highly reputed, but many of those who want to drink it were not able to do so because it was not available in those places. We want to protect the value in the eyes of our customers by not only maintaining the high standards of Jim Beam bourbon whiskey, but also introducing them to top quality Japanese whiskey products. With regard to this perspective, we have made a slogan of the new company. Suntory is crafting the spirits that stir the world, which shows our desire to create a truly global brand with this acquisition. Or, as Bill Murray says, for relaxing times, make it Suntory time.
Shiori and Mr. Erickson for interacting with us. Let's look at what our analysts have to say. Today, we have Ben and Marissa with us. What do you think of the deal? Is it a good deal?
Hi Hannah, I would say that Suntory has overvalued Beam slightly by paying $83.50 per share. My estimates and the consensus analysts' estimates value Beam to be around $79 per share, keeping in mind that the whiskey market is expected to grow 5% annually in the long term. I believe that Suntory is paying a higher price to keep the other competitors from buying Beam in order to get a higher share of the whiskey market.
So, Marissa, do you think the 25% premium is worth it?
Hi, it's a good deal for Suntory. Whiskey is a profitable market, which is also expanding. As Ben just mentioned, the long-term growth rate for the spirit market is expected to be at 5%. And out of a range of products in the spirit industry, whiskey is the leading growth segment. If we look at the annual growth rate in 2014, the industry average is 2.2%, while the number for whiskey is much higher, at 7.3%. In addition, a lot of companies, especially the big players, are expanding excessively for growth and profit. We have seen an increase of M&A activities over the past few years. Just to name a few, Beam itself acquired Cooley, Balcony acquired Saint-Germain and the world's second player Diageo made several deals. This one, Beam Century, might be the largest deal in spirit industry this year. The expanding strategy is good for brand building, cost reducing, and competing with large players in the industry. Another reason that Suntory is willing to play here, besides the obvious reasons of Beam's established brands, extensive channels, and loyal customers, is that Beam is one of the few companies which is not family owned. As such, it's expected to be more open to new ideas and easier to be fully integrated with Suntory.
So Ben, what do you think the future holds for Beam Suntory?
Due to this acquisition, Suntory has taken a lot of debt, and I believe future acquisitions for Suntory would be very difficult. But they would have to use Beam's knowledge of the market and both their strengths to enter into an entirely new segment. By doing so, they would be able to negate the threat of substitutes. There has also been a slight pushback by the US customers who are disliking a foreign brand acquiring a US bourbon brand. But a majority of the customers are welcoming the Yamazakis and the Hibikis as their palate is growing ever more sophisticated. As for the suppliers, there has been no change since they are more than happy to be a part of one of the biggest acquisitions of 2014. I also believe that Suntory should use Beam's marketing knowledge to position the Suntory brands like Yamazaki as a premium brand outside Japan, where the emerging affluent market is growing, like in India and China. This would still be difficult as most of Beam's revenues came from the US market and not from the emerging markets. So these are really interesting times for Beam Suntory.
Interesting times indeed. Thank you, Ben and Marissa. And that will be all from Spicy Channel News. Thank you. Good night.